So I think we can dive straight into it because I don't know about you, but I need to respect my age and get to bed at some point soon.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to a bit of a special Netflix versus cinema because Shaun, as we had said on the show last week, has swarmed off to America. He's going around there, attending baseball games. Oh no, it was American football games or something like that. Probably doing basketball and hopefully wearing a Stetson while doing all of this. And Sharon, it is Sharon's birthday week, so Sharon is busy having a week long of celebrations. And if you're lucky enough, you've been invited enough. If you're like me, you've rebuffed that invitation and gone, I'm sorry, I'm busy. But Sharon is not around. So joining me instead is our London correspondent, and that is Holly. Holly, how are you doing?
I'm very well. How about yourself?
I am doing well. I have to say it has been an emotional week of watching things.
That it has.
It has been an emotional week of watching things for me. I know for you it has been emotion on a whole other level of things. But but how have you been doing this week?
It's been I have the obligatory seasonal cold, which has been fueling all of the extra catching up on films that need to be seen before Oscar night. So I have to say it's been a good focus.
All right. Oh, cool. So with this, so you're talking about this on Oscar night. So you and Steph, the Steph of legend, that we keep hearing about, but and unfortunately has had to go and save some ungrateful people's lives. So
yeah, apparently.
So isn't with us this evening. So tell me all about this. Do you guys do this yearly? You try and watch everything that's Oscar worthy or that's up for the Oscars, and then do you watch the Oscar night, or how does that work?
Well, we had been planning on this. Is still very, very much in a sort of evolutionary stage.
Yeah.
The plan has been to try to watch everything of any real note that's been nominated, and we were hoping that we were going to be able to sit up and watch the Oscars, albeit in different locations. But apparently she's on call on Monday morning, so that's not going to work. So we have a pact that we are both going to not pay any attention to news, not turn on the news until we're both awake and have an agreed news source, so we can then read the outcomes at the same time and be in agreement or horror at the decisions that have been made.
All right, so with that, but do you guys usually do this like regularly, or is this a new thing for 2020?
Well, this is the new thing for 2020. It's been aspirationally in previous years. We'd hoped to see everything, but this year we've really said we are going to do it. we can achieve having seen everything or nearly everything, and we are the majority of the way there.
Does this include things that are up for the best animated movie and things that are up for the best short and the documentaries and everything?
I haven't made it through all of those, I have to admit, but
okay.
We're doing all of the main categories, and I think the only ones that we haven't got in, and we haven't seen all of the animations, they will have seen some, and haven't seen the documentaries, but I'm going to be going through and watching them now, obviously, and we haven't seen all of the foreign language ones either, but again, I'm working through that at the moment.
All right. If you can catch Parasite, well worth it.
Going to see it on Friday.
Good stuff. And it's obviously going to win, but
that's what we reckon as well.
But all right, so with that, because last week on the podcast we had a little bit of an Oscar chat, we had a little bit of an award season chat in general, and we went and I think it was a general thing of all of us, but me particularly, I was talking about how I'm just not that impressed, or I'm just not that interested in this award season, because I'm looking at a lot of the things I'm looking at, and I'm getting more and more aware that people are voting for this and that there is some weird politics involved, which makes me feel like I'm not particularly inspired by the crop of films in this award season. How do you see it?
There's definitely things that I really liked that are around, and the things that are up for it in many cases are definitely very good. Are they the absolute list that I would have gone with? No. Yeah, I think it certainly does feel, particularly after the BAFTAs. You look at the diversity or lack thereof, and the fact that people don't seem to notice that might be indicative of something not quite working. Just putting it out there, controversial suggestion. Yeah, it does sort of leave a slightly odd taste in one's mouth, I suppose. And there are also films that it feels sort of surprising are there or surprising they aren't there.
Okay, what's your biggest shock that isn't there?
Well, having not seen it yet, but I think Queen Slim, from everything I hear about it, is really, really good. Yeah. And it's all of the stuff I've seen. It felt like it absolutely ought to be up there. I'm also a little frustrated with the number of categories that Joker's in, on the basis that the more I think about, and I've said this to you before, the more I think about it, the less good I think it is.
I have to agree with you on that. I really have to. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if I watched the film and I was like, yeah, well, it's all right, yeah, it's not that big, and it's like you could let it lie and you could just leave it alone. But then when everybody else starts making this big deal about it, and like the bigger the deal more people make about it, the more you go, what the? No! Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything, but this is not working.
It's really, the more time's gone by, the more it's really got up my nose. Yeah. Because there are so many things about it. I don't understand how this is such a big deal. And Joaquin Phoenix is obviously superb. I mean, he's a brilliant actor and he portrays the role really well, but it's not a particularly interesting role. It doesn't do anything particularly clever. There's nothing innovative. I had to deal with a whole load of people with mental health conditions incessantly whining on a Facebook group about whether or not it was going to be triggering to watch it, and I just kept wanting to say, no, of course it's not. Be a grown-up. This film has no bearing on reality. It's all ridiculous and not that good. But I didn't do that because that wouldn't have been helpful. I may have done this a little bit, if I'm honest, but slightly more muted tone than, what's wrong with you people? I mean, I knew what the answer to that was because it was on the label of the group, but in more specific context in this case. So that's my bugbear for overpresence.
I would agree because I was trying to think. Because I was thinking of a film that I saw and I thought, oh no, this should be at the Oscars. This should. Oh, actually, I'm just going to go a bit spoilery. I saw Queen and Slim. It's going to be the first one we talk about today. And I was thinking, oh my god, yeah, this should be. Then I was thinking, but what film would I kick out of the? And I was like, oh, then straight away I just, I would kick Joker out. I would kick Joker out straight away.
Yeah,
I'll quick Joker out and insert this in. So it's okay. So of all the films that you've seen, what are the ones that you've enjoyed the most? The ones that you have seen, the ones that you enjoyed the most that you think, that I think deserves to be up in all these Oscar hoopla.
That isn't there.
Oh no, that is there.
Is there? Little Women, I'm really pleased is there.
Okay.
I'm sorry that Just Mercy isn't as well, actually. And I know you and I don't quite see eye to eye on that as whether or not it's necessarily doing anything new, but I thought it was really good, and I'm sorry it hasn't had some recognition.
So when you talk about Just Mercy, okay, so let's so for what categories would you put Just Mercy in?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. I think I hadn't really got much further than it really ought to be in there somewhere. Part of me feels like it's as worthy of Best Picture as Joker is, frankly.
Well, it's better than Joker,
by some margin. Yeah. So I could see Best Picture as a legitimate run. I'm not sure that I'd give anyone individually Best Actor, and I'm not entirely sure who would technically qualify as supporting, but Yeah, I think it's probably a best picture, and I'm not quite sure where I'd go and I really liked what they did with the music, and I don't know how much of it was original, but I thought that the use of music in it was particularly good. It was one of the things I commented on walking out about how well constructed I thought it had been.
Okay.
And I was really hit by it. And there are a lot of films where, the music just sort of swishes along in the background, not doing anything.
Yeah, just
but
along,
but when you get to there are points in it and you go, yes, that's perfect. You know that, well, they're doing something right, and it feels like it's worthy of comment.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we had from early last year. Oh, Le Mans 66. I loved, and I'm really pleased to see that. That's in the offings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought it was superb. It's one of my favourite films of last year. Yeah. Pain and Glory, definitely pleased that's in there, because whilst it was odd, to say the least, it was excellent. I'm running through my list of things that we've pulled through from last year. Judy, I thought was great.
Okay.
So I thought that was a brilliant film. And I thought,
you happy with Renée Zellweger winning the BAFTA?
Yeah, I would. I think I am. I mean, it's one of those things. Certainly with the Oscars list, I looked at everybody in there and thought, there's nobody in there I would be unhappy with winning it. There's nobody I'd say doesn't deserve to be up for consideration, and she does seem to be the leading contender for Best Actress.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would necessarily be ill done. I am also very pleased to finally have a Marvel film up there, and to see Endgame in the mix.
Oh, is Endgame up for Best Picture?
It's not for Best Picture, no. It's for something that I cannot remember off the top of my head, but it is in the list at last.
Well, Black Panther was up for Best Picture last year.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? I'd forgotten about that. Now, actually, Black Panther I think would have been a worthy...
It actually won 2 Oscars.
That's really good going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice to see it then. It's nice to see it happening again, because I'd forgotten Black Panther had done that well, and that was a superb film, and I would have been really happy with that getting Best Picture. As I've watched it probably 15 times now.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those...
Oh, last year was Green Book.
Yes.
Oh,
and
good
Green
Lord.
Book was... Green Book was excellent, I have to say.
No, I really, really did like Green Book, but Best Picture, I'm like, really? I'm like...
And the music worked so perfectly in it. Yeah. And it did have that lovely feel of sort of transformative relationships.
Yeah, but the thing is, my problem with Green Book is that it was too neat. It was kind of essentially, right? Watching Green Book, it's the kind of film that you walk out of the cinema and you think, well, that's it. We've solved race relations. and the film was done in that way. It's kind of like it's a crowd pleaser, and it's a very good crowd pleaser, but I think it massively simplifies a whole bunch of things, which I don't know, maybe you might need or something like that. But I just kind of thought for a barnstorm of a film, it's fine and everything like that. For a film that makes you think and you say, oh yeah, this is this. Okay, let me put it this way. If I'm going to put my film snob hat on, and if you're going to talk about a film that makes you go, oh my God, yes, this is what we can achieve with cinema, Green Book isn't it. So I was really, really, it's a massive crowd pleaser, and apparently that's what people wanted, and there's a little bit of me, and this is me getting mega cynical.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of me that feels like there's some people who went, oh yeah, Green Book, let's show them, yeah, Oscars ain't so white after all. You see, white comes together, black comes together. What a lovely world we make. We sorted it, Oscars.
Yeah.
Now we can go vote for a whole bunch of white guys again. But
and it's such an interesting one as well, because you're right, it doesn't show you the world being changed, but how much can you show the world being changed in something that's a true story?
Well,
it's
but even within this true story, I feel like they have ironed out the wrinkles in that to such extent, to such a oh yeah, and they were best friends forever. And it's, I think that they've ironed out all the wrinkles of it being such a true story to such an extent as to make it feel like you've taken it and instead you've made a popcorn movie. So it's, but anyway, but that was last year. Let's figure about that.
Yeah.
But let me put it this way: I am fully expecting. Well, unless 1917 wins, I'm fully expecting to wake up the day after Oscars because I don't watch the ceremony. I have better things to do with my life. And
it's like sleeping.
Yes. I'm fully expecting to wake up, and unless 1917 wins, to be like, oh my god, how did they pick that? I mean, if Joker wins Best Picture, I'm already. When it comes to the Academy and Oscars, I am already teetering on like very shaky ground. And if Joker wins, I think I'm just going to be like, I'm out. You and I obviously have totally different aims in life.
Because I'm looking at the list straight ahead of me now because I thought I must make sure everything's fresh in my brain. And Ford versus Ferrari or the Le Mans 66, I would be really happy with getting Best Picture. I appreciate it would be quite an unusual one to get Best Picture. As I have just discovered, there has never been a motor racing film nominated for Best Picture before, so yay.
But also it isn't it's not nominated for Best Director. And if you're not nominated for Best Director, then I'm sorry, I don't think you can win Best Picture. Yeah,
I think that's a fair point. The Irishman, way too long. Oh dear God, was that too long? It was fine, but
it's good. It's really good, but
yeah. I mean, I fell asleep. Obviously, I fell asleep because I was sitting on the sofa, and give me the opportunity, and I fall asleep. There's almost nothing I haven't fallen asleep in, but it was not able to keep me gripped for the best part of 4 hours that it required.
Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit, I really liked. Steph really didn't like.
All right.
A bit surprised it's up for Best Picture. We think it may be one of those things you need to be in the right headspace to watch and to appreciate, but it's a bit of a...
Well, the thing about it is that Hollywood definitely has the Oscars. They have tropes. If you make a movie that is about Hollywood, especially if it's about Hollywood being the good guys, it's usually going to do well at the Oscars. If you make a movie about World War II, it's usually going to do well at the Oscars. So if you go back through the Oscars and you look at the winners, I'm actually interested to find out how many of the winners have been World War II movies and how many of the winners have been movies about Hollywood. So it's and when you think about the people who vote for it, they're like, oh yeah, all that kind of stuff. But so I think Jojo Rabbit being a bit of a different take on World War II, it is. And I don't think this is why it was made in the least, but it has very sort of Oscar baity qualities about it that I can. Well, when you look at the voting populace of the Oscars, they would be like, oh yeah, let's do that. Well, I might not have put it there myself. When you look at the numbers, you can understand why it's there.
There's logic, and obviously Joker completely bemuses us. Why? But everybody's allowed to make bad decisions sometimes.
I just feel like all the people who vote for it en masse, they were told Joker is the film of the year, and they were like, oh okay.
You are not allowed to question this decision. This is the case.
Yeah.
It's Little Women's quite an interesting one then, because I loved it, and it did some things that I thought were much better than had been in previous depictions of it.
Yep.
I really like what they did with Amy, but it was also quite frustrating that Laurie was too young, and Professor Bear was so much too young that the more I look back at it, the more I'm a little bit frustrated by, even though I think it was brilliantly acted, brilliantly done, everything about it was brilliant. There are these two things, those two characters now niggle.
Yeah.
I will have to see how it feels when I watch it again, but I'm hoping that I will continue to focus on the bits that I love and not get caught up in those two minor annoyances.
Yeah, I've got to be honest with you. The inclusion of Little Women feels a little bit like it feels like tokenism is not quite the right word.
But I do know what you mean.
Yeah, it feels almost as if it's like, okay, fine, we've given you something. Will you now shut up about equality? So
yeah,
it feels a little bit like that, because I don't think Little Women is going to win anything. I really don't think it's going to win anything. So it's but hey, but anyway,
I don't think it does anything particularly new. Other than the approach to some of the characterizations, it's not in and of itself something ne'er seen before.
All right, we are going to start talking about actual films.
Yes, we should do that because frankly we've got a long way to go in running through all the things that may or may not win the Oscars. We'll be here till Kingdom Come.
Okay, so let's go for what you said about that. Okay, let's jump. Use that as a jumping off point about talking about Little Women and doing anything particularly new. And I think. And this might just be a case of me just turning 40 all of a sudden and realizing, you know what, maybe I should be thinking more like an old man. But I think that there is something, well, with film. It's okay. What's beginning to get to me is, what is the point of cinema? What is the point of making films? What is the point of actually putting stuff out there? And I think it is to sort of show a little bit of something and make you look at something from a different angle. And I feel when a film does that properly, then it's worth a mention. And I feel that Little Women does do that, because Little Women has taken a story that, as you said, has been dramatized over and over and over again, and has made people look at it differently. It has made people look. It has brought out elements from it that maybe have always been there, but people have never really paid attention to. People have always sort of said, this is the characterization of all these different things and all that kind of stuff in there. And I think so that's why it's quite good. That's quite good. And that's why I love this first one we're going to be talking about, which is Queen and Slim, because it's all about, I think, taking one thing that cinema can be used for, that cinema can be brilliant at, is taking something that everybody thinks, okay, cool, I know what this is about. This has been spoken on ad nauseum or ad infinitum, and putting a spin on it that makes you think, hang on a second, let me actually look at this. Let me look at this from a different point of view. And if it can make you feel something, and if it can put you in situations that you don't really think about, then I think it's a great film. And that's what I think Queen and Slim is. You might have already picked it up from me. I mean, you've seen things I've written on social media about this. I think this is a great, great film, because it is arguably the first Black Lives Matter movement film, which is directed by Melina Mansoukas, written by Lena Waithe, and it's the storyline, which is what it is that there's two people who meet up. When the film starts, you meet them and they're on a date. They're on a Tinder date. And they're just sort of chatting and going through. You find a little bit about the two characters. And while they're driving away from their dates, they get stopped by a policeman. And it just is obvious that this policeman, oh, by the way, these two people are black. I don't think I've mentioned that. And it is just obvious all the way through that this policeman just wants to harass them. He just wants to harass them. And it's just such a well done scene that you just feel this creeping sort of like sense of harassment and this rising sense of dread that this is not going to go well. And it sort of captures that sort of like thing in the bottle of, this is a one moment in a life that is just totally arbitrary. Nothing is your fault whatsoever, but this moment is going to change the course of your life. And it does that really, really well. So eventually what happens is that the policeman ends up getting killed by them in self-defense. But because the woman, who's played by Jodie Turner-Smith, who is brilliant in this, she's a lawyer, and the reason she actually goes out on the Tinder date in the first place is because she didn't want to be alone, because her client had just been sentenced to death that morning. So she's a lawyer, and she straight away looks at her and she goes, "You're a black man in America who has just killed a cop. There's no way that you are getting," because he's quite a conscientious person. He's quite like, he has a sort of Christian beliefs and all that, and he just wants to be like, he's like, oh no, I've got to do something about this. He has all this guilt. I've got to turn myself in. And she's like, no, that is like the worst thing you could do. If you turn yourself in, you are dead. And and so it's about them going on a run and going across America. And then it becomes all about what this does to the black community in America, how people rally around it. But at the same time, it never loses sight of the fact, it doesn't become an issue movie, if you get what I mean. At the heart of it, it's still about these two people. It's about these two people who, quite frankly, do not know each other. Because when this whole thing started, they pretty much just met. They just met for the first time, and then they end up like they're the destinies, if you want, are thrown together, and it's about them trying to figure out and work out what they're going to do on the hoof and how they meet different people along the way. And it becomes a bit like a road movie and an Odyssey movie. We've spoken recently on the podcast about 1917 and how that's kind of like, this Odyssey movie where you move along, you meet this person, they move out of your life. You move on, you meet this other person, they move out of your life. And Queen and Slim has that kind of thing as well, where they just keep meeting people, and with the nature of the story, they have to go away because you're focusing on these two as they're going through everything. And I could not figure out where this film was going. I just could not figure out where it was going. I mean, up until 5 minutes from the end, I was not sure whether this was supposed to be a slice of brutal realism or whether it was supposed to be a hope-inducing piece of, of escape. Of hey, yeah, wow, this is great. Oh, maybe we can win something for once, which is kind of like it's a narrative in America about black people and about how, well, they never win. So, and up until 5 minutes from the end, I could not figure out what kind of film this was. I could not figure out where this film was going, but I was just I was sort of like, I was tense throughout the whole film because I just wanted this. I was like, oh God, please just get away with this because this isn't fair. This isn't fair. It's made me determined to not live in America as a black man. It has made...
I think a wise decision. I'm not sure that one wants to live in America when you're anyone other than possibly a white middle class man.
Yeah, it seriously made me go, oh my God, I don't think I can live there. It's maybe no one to live in America. And I think more than any film that I have seen recently, it has stayed with me. Like bits of this film keep flashing up in my head and just sort of set me off. They just keep flashing in my head. They just set me off, and I'm just like, oh my God, that's so big. Because I think the really good thing that they do, that director Melina Matsoukas and the writers do, is every step of the way, every development is believable. Every development is, and they really put you in the point of view of what would you do if you were in that position? How would you do that? Like even the inciting incidents, you're like, yeah, it doesn't. I really don't see what options there were, and it's a beautiful, beautiful film. It is well shot. It has this interludes where they break away from the plot to just have like a human moment, and some of them are just achingly beautiful. Some of them are just achingly longing, and it's just a really, really good film. I don't. It might be because I'm black and I'm closer to the subject matter, because I'm thinking, if I was in America, that could be me. But there's just I don't think I have been this emotionally affected by a film in a long time. So Queen and Slim, absolutely loved it. And weirdly enough, after all that, I think I'm only going to give it a 4.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant, brilliant film. I think that there are some sort of structural things that it does, but I think it does it because it wants to have a wider impact and talk about wider impact on it. But it doesn't quite work together. But I still really, 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 really love the film. But that's me, Queen and Slim. Any questions?
I think I'm going to have to wait until I've seen it.
Yeah.
But it's everything I've seen about it. I saw some of the cast on Graham Norton.
Which was Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith.
Yes, and he's wonderful. He's always wonderful. Everything he does is great.
Yeah, I actually have to be looking at his career. I mean, I'm like, this he is building something like very, very so deliberately. Like you look at the films that he's been in, and you think he's been in good stuff.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a one to keep watching.
Yeah,
because I've never seen him do anything badly.
Yeah,
and I hope it will continue that way.
Yeah,
and everything they said about it on Graham Norton, I was fascinated by, and I do not watch Graham Norton. It's one of the long list of programs that I find really uncomfortable viewing. Yeah. And it had Jim Carrey on it being creepy and weird and quite frankly rude to Margot Robbie. So, that was hugely sexist. So uncomfortable viewing. But the one thing I got to walk away from that is discovering that Jim Carrey was still alive, which was a bit of a surprise because he seemed to have disappeared into a haze somewhere in the middle distance. Unfortunately, He has come back, and a few more insights into Winston, which I really now desperately want to see.
Yeah.
And even more so after this.
Yeah, and I mean, I said on social media that because we've spoken about it on the podcast before and talked about how everybody said, the fact that the lack of diversity at all the award ceremonies and all that sort of stuff, and my point of view has always been, I'm not just going to say, everybody there is white or everybody there's a white man, or this shouldn't be the case. My thing is, I would rather go and say, no, this is a film that was made by or starring people who should have been there, who didn't end up being there. And I know you said you spoke about Just Mercy. I saw Just Mercy, and I didn't think it was that great. I thought it was a bit generic. But this is a film that I'm like, I can fully throw my weight behind this film in that argument and say, now, this should have been at the Oscars. Because when you talk about cinema telling you something new and doing something that you haven't really seen before and opening up worlds that until now have not been put out there on wide release, that's exactly what this film does. And it's exactly what a whole bunch of films that actually obviously for Oscars don't. So it's this is a film I'll open my foot and go, okay, cool. I do not know what the Academy voters were watching. I do not know what they were doing. Why is this not being spoken about? Why is this not up there? So yeah.
There was part of me that wondered if it was to do with release dates, but then it suddenly struck me that that Parasite isn't, I think, officially out until Friday, is it?
Well, it's release dates in
the
America.
UK.
So for the Oscars, it's release dates in America, and most of these films were released last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wondered if they were too late in terms of release dates. But when did Parasite get released in America?
I don't know. I do not know when it got released. I'm not sure. But that's the thing, because Parasite was up for BAFTAs over here. So they must have had some sort of, there's probably some technical thing where it's like it had been at a London Film Festival, and then that made it qualify or something like that. But it's, but Parasite isn't on general release. Actually, no, that was a preview release that they saw the other week. Anyway, but yeah,
it's Friday.
Yeah, but anyway, Queen and Slim, great film. And yeah, I could talk about it for ages. I could talk about it in a sort of spoilerific way. And if I kept talking about it, I know there's some scenes that I would recount that would probably get me all choked up, because I think it's a beautiful, beautiful film.
Wow.
Yeah, it really, 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 really is. Anyway, let's move on before I do get choked up and talk about. Let's go over to Netflix, and we're going to talk about. You have finished watching the second season of Sabrina. No, what's it called now? Third series of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And my God, do they keep coming? Yes, three whole series now. When did the second come out?
Last year.
Good Lord. All right, so this is the reboot of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, a bit darker this time, starring Kiernan Shipka.
Yes, who is very good. I have to say, she's quite a joy to watch, and it's the overall premise is going right back to the original, a loose connection with the original Sabrina, and the basis that her name is Sabrina, that her aunts have the same name, that she lives with her aunts. Her human boyfriend is still called Harvey. Yep. And beyond that, and her familiar is still Salem the cat.
Yep.
But beyond that, really, all resemblance ends.
Yep.
So the principle is at the very start of series 1 that she is having to try to decide whether or not she wishes to be part of the witch world or the mortal world, and low hilarity ensues, along with quite a lot of dark things going on in the background.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the second series, she has predominantly made her decision, and life has evolved in such a way. And then I'm trying to think how one gets to the third series without providing too many spoilers for anyone who hasn't yet watched series 1 and 2.
Stuff happens, magic, teenagers.
Yeah, magic, teenagers. the devil, grand outcomes that aren't the ones that you expect are going to be the outcomes when you start at the beginning of the film. In fact, in the film of the series, rather. In fact, you go, you what now?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, are very well put together.
Yep.
It's the cast are fantastic. Just an absolute joy. I'm pulling up the list just to make sure I don't fail to mention anybody. So, it would help if I could type.
Yeah.
Turns out I can't. So yes, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, full cast and crew, has a particular note. Lucy Davis as Aunt Hilda.
Oh yeah.
Who is wonderful.
Jasper
Miranda
Carrot's
Otto.
daughter.
Is she?
She is Jasper Carrot's daughter. Yeah.
That's amazing. That may be my favourite fact of the day.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah, because I remember I used to see her in a whole bunch of stuff. I think she was in Ugly Betty for a while, and I was like, oh yeah, she's really good. And it's like, a British actress who just sort of like happens to be doing stuff in America, and then you look up and you're like, Father Jasper Carrot. You're like, what? What? All right, cool.
So much becomes clear and yet not all at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, so carry on. Yeah, you said Miranda Otto?
Yes, Miranda Otto as Aunt Zelda. Superb. Then Michelle Gomez plays the character of Mary Wardwell, who is also always brilliant.
Yep.
And then Richard Coyle as the
him
mostly bad guy. Yeah, I mean it is a wonderful cast.
Jeff from Coupling.
Yes, exactly. And they are, and the much younger, newer cast are all very good as well. So it's well put together. It's fun.
Yeah,
they manage a good level of comfortable, sinister feelings as you try to work out through all three series what's going on. There are periodically random bits of singing, which are not frequently, but every series, which are often a little bit of a surprise.
Or like a bit to sort of an impromptu musical or something.
Yes, of sorts. It's a little unusual in that sense, but again, is done really rather well. The third series is not as good as the first series, it must be said, which was knock your socks off good.
Yeah.
But it's still very enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to watching the next series, which will undoubtedly follow. It will, I suspect, in the next series, jump the shark, but I suspect will continue beyond that point anyway, because, well, people will keep watching. Why not? So yes, it's a very enjoyable, three series to sit down on a sofa under a blanket on a Sunday afternoon. It's not going to tax your intellect, but it will make you smile, assuming you're comfortable with watching things about teenage witches.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not so much. So I think I would give for all three series overall, I think I would give it a 4.
Okay.
I think a 5 would require something a little bit more profound.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to give this series a 3, simply because the first one was so good, and the first one might have pushed it up to towards a 5, and everything has to balance out. So yeah, a solid 3.
Oh, all right, cool, good stuff. A solid 3 for Sabrina the Teenage Witch season 3. And you know what I'm gonna do is, well, first of all, I just want to say Kiernan Shipka. She's been really good. She's been really good ever since Mad Men, and she's somebody who since Mad Men, I've been like, oh, I really, really hope that good things happen for her. Hope she doesn't just disappear. And so I'm really happy that she's in this, and I saw her in I think it was Feud, Betty and Joan. Quite happy that she's back, or that she's making a career, which is pretty good. I'm really, really happy about that. And you know how you were saying about how ever since you watched Joker, you've been thinking about it. The more you think about it, the lower down in your estimation it goes. I think I'm gonna have to go back and give Queen and Slim a 5. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's important to be able to reconsider these.
Yeah, because honestly, the more I think about this film, ever since I watched it, the more I think about it, the more it's grown in my estimation. Like going over it has just made it bigger in my mind. Yeah, I'm going to ignore the thing. I'm going to ignore the bits that I think, why was that there? But yeah, it's a 5. All right, cool. And so that's us. Now we go back to cinema. Now we're going to talk about The Lighthouse. Now, The Lighthouse, this is a film that everybody is raving about. But I do think that this is one that has actually been released too late for Oscars. So it isn't up for any Oscars, is it?
It is up for one.
Oh, let me guess.
For something
Best
really
original
random.
screenplay.
It could well be that. Let me just check.
Oh, so it is up for Oscars. Huh.
Yeah.
Because people are yelling about this film.
Best cinematography.
Oh, okay, I can see that. I can totally see that. Even though I think 1917 is going to win that one. But
yeah.
Yeah, but I can see why that would be. Okay, so The Lighthouse is up for that. Oh, then that's surprising that I guess. Okay, so this is a film that everybody's raving about at the moment, but do you think it might be a little too out there for Oscar voters?
Yeah, I do, and I'd say so. I mean, I've pulled up the IMDb page to make sure I don't say the wrong thing. So it's directed and written by Robert Eggers, written by him and his brother Max. It's the premise is 2 lighthouse keepers try to maintain their sanity whilst living on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. Now, courtesy of having listened to Mark Commode last week, I have learned all sorts of other random details about it, including the fact that whilst it is an original screenplay, it is loosely inspired by a very short... So, excuse me, I've just got to tell the cats to be quiet. Stop it! They're having a fight. I think they have views about cinema. They're not allowed to go and see films in the cinema. It's clearly a problem. Stop it!
It's funny because the second I heard that sound, I was like, "Oh, that sounds like 2 cats having a fight." And I don't even know how. I don't hang around cats, but there's something unmistakable about cats having aggro with each other.
Yeah, well, what is currently happening is Callie is lying on the floor with her brother standing up trying to hit her. He's now trying to give up and go and do something else, but she's not prepared to let him. So they're going to chase each other around the place. He's going to win because he's got 25% longer legs than she does, and he can hold her away and smack her. But she will not admit defeat, even though he started it. She will now keep starting it until they both get tired.
Okay,
and they will be as annoying as they can.
This is funny. This is funny, but it does sound a little bit, from what I've heard, like the plot of The Lighthouse.
Mm. It certainly has something to align with it. So yes, back to where I was before Callie and Max wanted to make their views known. So there is a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, very short, possibly even unfinished, about it's sort of 4 journal entries of a lighthouse keeper.
Yeah.
On a New England, all by himself in a New England lighthouse. The premise of the film, in slightly greater detail, is you have an older lighthouse keeper, played by Willem Dafoe,
yep.
Who is on this island, and then delivered unto him is Robert Pattinson as the junior lighthouse keeper, new to the work. A bit odd.
Yeah.
The cast is basically non-existent for all intents and purposes. There are the only 2 people who are actually credited.
Yeah.
I think it's just Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, and there is also Valeria Karaman, who is the mermaid. There is one other character who is not listed in the credits.
Hang on.
But
you just said mermaid, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. So we have our two gentlemen who are both more than a bit odd, on this lighthouse island in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
It is filmed in black and white, and for the first 10 minutes, I'm reasonably sure nobody says anything. So you have that element of thinking: are there words? Are there going to be words? What is this we're about to see? What I've also discovered is that the filming style is quite interesting, and that my waving my hands around doesn't really help when you can't see the hand waving. It's so the aspect ratio of it is quite an unusual one. It's a very old
square,
one, and it's quite So it's not the squarest, but it's the second squarest that you can get, which changes something. Yes,
like an old school TV.
This is something like 1/119.
Yeah.
It was something very odd. It wasn't a classic 4x3. It was something really bizarre. Yes, 1.19 to 1.
Okay.
That is the thing I have learnt, and it's a thing. So the film is fundamentally deals with these two rather odd men who don't like each other, who have nothing in common with each other, on an island in the middle of nowhere, where one of them has to be awake at all times in, maintaining everything. So in the event of a storm or it getting dark, the light can be lit. And Robert Pattinson's character becomes somewhat obsessed with the idea of a mermaid. And you have all of these, and has also a huge amount of rage directed towards seagulls. So it's all, and there are huge quantities of seagulls. It's a very, very strange film. And I can't, and whilst what I'm saying sounds, incoherent and illogical, it doesn't get any better if you watch it. Well, it's not that I'm struggling to identify. You have two somewhat crazy people who do not look like themselves at all. So, best hair and makeup going, because if you didn't know that was them, you wouldn't know it was them. And they're wandering around an island, getting drunk, believing there are mermaids. I'm still not sure whether or not there are mermaids. And who knows what happens? And who knows why it happens? It's an entire film where I got to the end and went, what?
You see, now this is the funny thing, right? Because you said that you're a bit of her, but everybody I've heard who's tried to describe this film, including professional film journalists, has pretty much ended up sounding like what you're saying. It's like, it's kind of, and it's every time I hear somebody try and describe this film, I'm like, this is one of those films I'm just going to have to watch to figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah. And, you'll watch it and you still won't have figured out what the hell's going on, because it makes no sense.
So what's the appeal if nothing makes any sense?
It's a very interesting question, and I'm not honestly sure I can answer it. And I have very, very odd feelings about it. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it, but I'm very glad I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I feel that I've thought a lot as a result, not necessarily thought anything particularly profound, and I don't feel like my understanding of the universe has changed at all.
Yeah.
It hasn't. But it is the film that I have pondered the most since seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
That I can remember. And that's quite an interesting position to be in terms of a film. It has occupied my thoughts.
I do feel like if a filmmaker can make you do that, then they've done their job a bit.
I mean, at least in part, it's trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Because, could have been almost anything, frankly. Was it real? Who was who? They clearly at times haven't any idea which of them is which. Their grasps of reality are so tenuous.
Okay, all right.
Anything's possible.
So in that sort of anything possible, what is going on is this real thing. If you're going to compare this to did you see the Darren Aronofsky movie Mother? Also, Mother!
I have seen part of it, but not all of it.
Okay, then never mind.
I own it, and I couldn't bring myself to watch all of it, but I know enough about the film to understand that this is... I think this is mostly less weird
than Mother. All right. Okay, that's cool.
Yes. I think it's easier to differentiate between some of the causes of their I mean, some of it's just batshit, frankly. But forgive the profundity.
Yet another word that I've heard used to describe this film a lot.
Yes. So much of it you can see how, if you take it at face value, with the possible exception of the mermaid, and a couple of other slight oddities, you could sort of see how much of this could be a thing.
Okay.
Then there are bits where you just go, are you really does that? Why? Why were you thinking this? And then, of course, because it's all done in black and white, and the movement is quite odd as well. The best way I can describe it, you can sort of think 1920s. Film, good old black and white films where the sort of Dracula type films.
Oh yes,
where you've got your screaming woman, and there's always the villains, or we have a sort of slightly, and I'm sort of miming it to myself, which doesn't really again help with you not being able to see what I'm doing.
Yep.
But a slightly sort of crabbish run. That's slightly slow. It's like the speed isn't quite right.
Okay,
pantomime villainy.
Yep.
And there are some bits in it where Robert Pattinson's movement is exactly like that, and you can't then quite work out if you're watching some sort of, a sort of 1920s black and white parody, which of course in some ways you are.
Yeah,
I mean it's a film that does many things, and I'm not entirely sure whether it does any of them well. But
okay, so we'll put you out of your misery of trying to talk about this film without just sort of saying, well, this happens and that didn't make any sense. So how many stars would you give it?
Frankly, I'm going to give it 3 because in some ways it's a 5 and in some ways it's a 1. And the only thing I've ever given less than a 1 to is Cats.
Having said
which
that,
I gave it a solid 0 to.
Okay, having said that, talking about awards, did you see Rebel Wilson's speech at the BAFTAs?
Oh Lord, yes, yes, I did.
Because the Rebel Wilson is somebody who I have said, and I have gone on record on the podcast as saying that I'm getting tired of her shtick, and when it comes to when it comes to her being in the film, I am not so sure I particularly want to watch it because she does the same thing in every film. She's really good at
I've had that conversation so many times as well.
She's really good at that thing, but it's the same thing and I'm getting tired of it. But I have to admit that speech that she gave at the Oscars was a little bit glorious.
Yes,
well, at the BAFTAs.
The beginning of it, I was rolling my eyes and going, "Oh, here we go."
It's like, here we go. It's Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson being Rebel Wilson.
She's going to Rebel Wilson all over this.
Yeah, but then she managed to be Rebel Wilson with something else.
Yes,
and I thought she did it very well.
The line about cats. The line about cats just that kills me.
Yes. Oh yes, it was good. It was a joy. And subject thereof, if you haven't seen the James Corden carpool karaoke shock horror video of the week, where it turns out sometimes he's not really driving.
Oh yeah,
I know you never believed it, but he has obviously had to come clean about this because everybody's in shock. People's lives have been destroyed. It
You're
seems.
not really driving. It's like so you think it's a good idea for a guy to? Besides, how are they filming it? Where's the camera? How's he able to see past the camera?
Apparently mostly driving, just not when things would be dangerous, which I was more surprised about, frankly. But I will have to find the link and send this video to you because it's brilliant, because he makes an excellent line in there about cats as well, which just brought me so much joy. And for that alone, it is worth watching the entirety of it.
Oh yeah, but anyway, Rebel Wilson, good line about cats, which
absolutely,
which is so close to rehabilitating her image in my mind. But never mind. Okay, so now, cool. After the Lighthouse,
there's a way to go.
There is a way to. I think she needs to, because I quite liked her in Jojo Rabbit because she was turned down. She was turned down, and she was being directed, and her energy was being used for something different. And I think if she starts being pointed in that direction, and essentially I'd like to see her in a drama, I think then I would be up for that. But if she just shows up playing the sort of whole fat Amy persona in yet another film, I don't have time for that. But,
no, exactly. Been there, done that. Got so many of those damn t-shirts.
Yeah. All right, cool. And now we go back to Netflix for a final thing, which is going to be The Good Place. Have you started watching The Good Place?
I have seen the first couple of series, but I haven't watched more recently.
All right. So for people who don't know about The Good Place, I mean, this is quite frankly, I'm in shock at what it might to do in this show. It's a comedy. It's one of those single camera comedies, so it's not like a show where you have an audience or anything like that. And it starts off in the first episode with Kristen Bell, and she's sitting down on a chair. She wakes up, and there's words on the wall in front of her that just says, "Welcome, everything is fine." And it turns out that she's dead, and she has made it to this place called The Good Place, which isn't entirely heaven, but it's just called The Good Place. So obviously, because there's a good place, there's a bad place and all that. And what ensues over the next, I think it's 5 seasons now, because they keep chopping and changing and doing weird American things with how they go for a mid-season break, and then does that count as one season with a break in the middle, or is it kind of 2 different seasons? Yeah, it
drives me nuts.
Yeah, the release schedule of the final couple of episodes of the final season, because I literally finished watching this before we started recording. So The Good Place is now over; it's done, and the release schedule of the final couple of episodes annoyed the heck out of me, because it's one of these. Nowadays, most of the shows that you talk about and create a whole bunch of buzz are released in one go. But The Good Place is one of those ones that was still doing it week by week. So Netflix had a deal to release The Good Place internationally, but it meant that they could only release an episode week by week. So so they were only releasing that week. So it meant that it was just, sometimes it was, quite frankly, was annoying. And I did not know when it was coming back. I did not know. I remember when I watched the end of the first half of this final season, and I sat down there going, that's a really weird place to end it. But I mean, this show has been brave, so it would. Then I realized, oh no, this isn't the end. We're just going to go away for like 5 weeks and then come back after Christmas. I'm like, okay. So it is clever, and it is one of the few. It's a comedy that essentially asks pretty much every single big question about who we are, why we are here, and whether religion has got it right, and if so, which one has. And as somebody who is a Christian myself, and there's bits in it that I'm looking at going, yeah, I've thought that. It's like, yep, that links up. That I think that makes sense. And it's all about trying to figure out this whole thing of morality and how to figure out whether people are good or whether they're bad, or whether there's any chance of people, if they're bad, getting to be good. And it has philosophy thrown in there, because you have it has Kristen Bell, has Jamila Jamil, who I was really surprised to see show up in it, because I was like, last time I saw you were on Radio 1. you were at BBC Radio 1. How did this happen? But she's really, really good in it. A guy called Manny Jacinto. There's Darcy Caden. Ted Danson is awesome. There's a guy called William Jackson Harper. Essentially, the cast, there's no weak link in this cast. This cast is awesome. Even the people who show up randomly every now and then, like Maya Rudolph, who just show up randomly every now and then, they are all bringing their A game, and it's just it's kind of like watching a magic trick where you can see somebody right in front of you. There's a friend of mine, Paul Newton, very, very good magician. I was just at a thing that he did recently, and he was doing a magic trick like about like the length of my middle finger away from my face, and I still didn't see how he did it. I still, I was like, I know he's doing a trick, but I don't know how he did that. And this show has a very, very similar thing where it's like you're watching it go, and you're not sure how they're doing this. You're not sure how they're making this thing funny and informative, and you realize that you're learning about philosophy, and you're is thinking, oh yeah, hang on a second, yeah, well, wait a second, okay, that's the central tenet of that religion, but how does that make any sense? Is that actually fair? How does that work? Oh, and I think it's a show that throughout its run has been more than willing to totally destroy its own central premise. And then you're like, oh, I thought I was watching a workplace comedy. Nope, not watching a workplace comedy. I'm not watching an adventure movie. Oh, no, I'm watching an adventure movie. I'm watching something else. And the final season, and especially the final episode, I think it's just beautiful. As I told you, it was an emotional week for me.
Yes.
I told you it was an emotional week for me. I think it's just beautiful, and the way it goes on and what happens and where the characters end up, and you realize that you've been watching these people for 5 seasons and you just really, really care for these characters, which is silly for a comedy, but it manages to pack an emotional punch in certain areas, and some of it just rings true to who the characters are, and it manages to give everybody something to do. It has tiny nods and cameos and things for people who are paying attention, and I just think it's a great show. I think The Good Place is one of the great comedies of all time. when you talk about TV history. I really, really do think that is. And once you manage to do something that is funny, but actually still manages to wrestle with the big questions of what is going on in life, I think that is to be applauded. I think it's a great show. Season 4, I would give... Oh, season 5 or whatever. The final season of The Good Place. I would give that a 4. A 4 out of 5. I think I would. It's a bit like what you were saying about Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I would give the whole thing a 5. The Good Place is a 5, and I would say anybody go watch it unless you really don't like something intelligent. then in that case, don't bother.
No,
but it's but yeah, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. So yeah, that's it. If you have a chance, go watch The Good Place. And that is us. We have come to the end of the films we're going to talk about. I think I will leave you to go do some work and then drag Steph. Hang on, do you actually have any? Are you guys going to see any more films before the Oscars on Sunday? What else have you got?
Yes,
what else have you got on your list?
We have still got to see. Let me find my list. Richard Jewell. Which I know isn't up for much, but is up nonetheless.
It's up for Best Supporting Actress for Kathy Bates.
Yes.
That's a weird one.
Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And Parasite. Now, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is already down to a 11:45 a day showing in the Odeon in Richmond, which has really surprised me.
Yeah, well, you think it's bad. I can't find the Lighthouse anywhere.
Wow. Lighthouse is still going strong around West London, as you would imagine.
Oh, look at us! We're London. We get everything.
Yes. Well, it's also West London, darling. So in West London, we like watching arty and sophisticated and interesting things because that's what people in West London do.
We'll keep it on in the cinemas and we'll buy a ticket, even though we won't go watch it, even though we don't understand what the hell's going on.
Well, if anybody can tell me what was actually going on in the Lighthouse, I would love to know. I'm hoping somebody will break it down for me in very, very small words, probably with bullet points. I don't think that'll fix it, mind you. Oh, this is what I want for my birthday, which is not for another couple of months, is somebody to explain the Lighthouse to me. Make it meaningful.
Okay, that's it. I'll get you Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, and Robert Eggers, who will come in with a PowerPoint presentation and go, right, now, here's where we go. We're going to go through this thing scene by scene and and explain what is going on.
Good.
All right.
I could totally work with that.
All right. Okay, so, we need to say who won this week. Who won this week? Netflix or cinema?
Oh, yes.
So, what do you reckon?
I think it's a cinema week, but it's quite close. I think it's virtually a tie if you average it out. Because I gave The Lighthouse 3, and you've given Queensland 5. And we've done a 3 and 4. No, cinema has won.
Yes, cinema has won by 0.5 of a star. So
well done, cinema.
Yes.
We applaud you.
Yes. I mean, they are bringing out the big hitters because it's Oscar season. Even though some of the big hitters that they're bringing out for Oscar season were weirdly enough ignored by Oscar, but
yes,
yeah.
But we've got a list of things to see already this year. There's at least another 20 films in our list so far. And if you include Cats and our 3 on Netflix, we've got through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 13 films so far this year.
What, you and Steph?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Well done.
This is bearing in mind that only I saw Cats. I took that one for the team. She said there was no way she was going to do it. She just couldn't. And given I gave it a 0, I feel she made the right call, as I'm never going to get over those bloody jellicle cats.
Oh, please, not that word.
The rest of my life.
Not that
word.
Oh,
no, jellicle.
No, please, not that word. Had enough. All right, anyway, all that's left to say is a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Yes, we will see you next week when I'm not sure if Shaun or Sharon are back yet, but we'll figure something out. Anyway, bye.
Yeah. Bye.